So yeah, my name is Mark Albert. I'm Cathet Regional District's Fire Smart Coordinator. My goal is to help community members find and identify potential fire risks and then provide solutions to help implement them. Wildfires have been increasing, and there's a few reasons why. There's just simply more people living in wilderness settings with forest fuels all around them. Longer dry spells, hotter dry spells, increased chances of lightning. We can't let these fires always burn because there's structures interspersed throughout most of BC. So the way the Fire Smart Priority Zone system works is you start from your structures and work your way out. Cleaning up your Zone 1 next to the house here. Wood piles against the structure are actually quite a common Fire Smart no-no. What would happen is embers get blown in from the wind into the wood pile, catch the wood pile on fire, and then catch the structure on fire. Whereas if actually the embers are getting blown by the wind, even though this is wood siding, the likelihood of the embers sticking onto the siding are quite a bit lower. They would most likely just fall to the ground here. Research has been showing that half of the homes are burning down because of embers, not because of flames burning the structures, but wind driving embers from a fire nearby into extremely combustible fuels. Like for example, all those little twigs and needles in your gutters is a prime little habitat to kindle a little ember and get underneath your roofing and then catch the roof on fire. So a good time to do this too is before summer begins, because then I had the time for all the winter storms to blow all the debris from the trees into the gutters. And it's good to do it before fire season, before they dry out. If you have a metal roof and have done your Zone 1 treated, your structures are 90% likely to survive. The whole thing about Fire Smart, it doesn't have to look like a barren wasteland around your house to be safe. You can have ornamental trees, you just gotta make sure they're the right choice. There's a good example of outbuilding placement. So here the woodshed is located about 30 feet from the structure. And there's a reason for that. As long as something is 30 feet away, it shouldn't be able to catch the structure on fire. Let's go check out a Zone 2 and Zone 3 Fire Smart fuels treatment. Some of the things that are going to help dramatically increase structure survival rates is removing a lot of the fuel to decrease potential fire intensities. Removing any of the ground fuels, stuff 6 inches and below, and limbing cedars. I think that's your most bang for your buck. You want to try to distance the lower branches from the ground. So kind of one rule of thumb is you never want to prune more than half the height of the tree. What we call these in fire is that these are called ladder fuels. And because they act like a ladder for fire. So one thing we're trying to do in this fuel treatment is remove any ladder fuels, keeping the fire on the ground. A really good way to implement Fire Smart is with your neighbors and in a kind of community setting. Working together with your neighbors is more effective. And then it's probably more fun and builds good neighborhood cohesion, which in an emergency situation, it's good to know who your neighbors are.
We bought this property about 13 years ago. When we first moved in here, the actual timber and brush was right up to where you see this fence here, it was right up. We cleaned everything right out, created a clearing around the house to make sure that we could have some type of protection. The entire roof line of the house here is all concrete tile. You can see how thick they are, and it's completely 100% fireproof. Yeah, so I put gravel around the footings in a lot of area where we don't have concrete.
We got, about 2 feet of non-combustible material with a very high foundation before the siding. So, the likelihood of this wall catching fire from ground fire is pretty much zero. This is a great example. His Zone 1 is clear of coniferous species. Those are the ones that ignite really readily. And then his Zone 2 even, 30 feet from the house, that's one where you're even allowed conifers, but there's not too much here. We got an alder tree, which is non-combustible, some deciduous landscaping. Trent's Fire Smart choices here are excellent.
After the initial pretty hard thinning of the property the first few years, I go in at random, I take natural mortality out now. Or trees that are suppressed, those small diameter ones, I'll take the odd one out every year and let the larger ones expand their crowns and stuff and close up. Once they do that as well, they shade out the ground more and you get less ground vegetation, which helps too for any type of ground fire.
That's what's nice about a lot of this forest treatment and Fire Smart. It actually replicates what fire would have done on the ecosystems. If a fire were to have passed through this area, it would have burnt off all the fine fuel accumulations.
I think an important aspect of pruning your trees, especially along access routes into your property, is that you got to think ahead for emergency vehicles. If you don't keep on top of it, a fire truck or anything can't get into your property in an emergency. And the only thing I have to do now is every once or twice a year just pick up the branches that fall down after windstorms. That's the main thing, is mainly just keeping your property clean. And that's the most important part. It's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, you've done a lot of work here, eh?